And it's a brand new week and a brand new month right here in Lagos, Nigeria. Great to have you join us. Good morning, good evening. Wherever in the world you're watching from, it's Business Morning live on Channels Television. I'm Ladi Williams, and happy International Workers' Day to all workers out there who dress up and show up. Regardless, you're celebrated. It was Workers' Day yesterday. First off, now let's drill into the oil market. We see oil prices fell today, and holiday sapped trade in Asia is concerned about weak economic growth in China. The world's top oil importer outweighed fears of potential supply stress from a looming European Union ban on Russian crude. Brent crude futures fell $1.13 to $106 1 cent a barrel in early trade, while U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures fell $1 to $103.69 a barrel. Markets in Japan, India, and across Southeast Asia were closed for public holidays today. Brent prices fell after China released data showing that factory activity in the world's second largest economy contracted for a second month to its lowest since February 2020 because of COVID lockdowns. While Western countries have curbed buying Russian oil, sanctions have hit shipping and insurance for the country's exports, and the preceding impact on global supply has been cushioned as India has been picking up heavily discounted Russian cargoes. And it was Workers' Day yesterday, and we're still celebrating workers. And it happened live at Eagle Square in Abuja. We saw labor leaders, government officials, and workers meet to celebrate the event. Workers were urged not to see the government as the enemy. Do take a listen.
It is Workers' Day around the world, and in the nation's capital, various labor unions are flying their colors at the Eagle Square as they remember the sacrifices made by Nigerian workers towards national development. This year, Nigeria's labor unions are harping on labor, politics, and the quest for good governance. And the speeches at this event reflect just that. Beginning with the Minister of Labour and Employment, who's been in the crosshairs with members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities after failing to resolve issues leading to the shutdown of universities in the country. He emphasizes the need for mutual respect between Labour and the government, asking Labour to leverage on its large figures in next elections.
100 million voters is no joke. So please harvest this. Let us get the PVCs done, so that Labour can dictate the way of governance of their country.
The speech from the president of the Nigeria Labour Congress highlights the challenges faced by workers in Nigeria. He has very strong words for Nigeria's political class.
It is only a fair political class that will keep citizens' concerned and issues of national development as footnotes in 2023 political agenda.
For the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo, the strike action embarked upon by the Academic Staff Union of Universities is one that is close to his heart. He calls for more dialogue between both parties.
I want to appeal again to the Academic Staff Union of Universities and the broader labor community to seek the path of dialogue. Disagreement and debate have always been a part of the relationship between labor and government. But even as we disagree today, we must not do so as mortal adversaries, but as members of the same progressive family.
The working man is Nigeria's hero, and that's what May the 1st affords the Nigerian government and its people an opportunity to assess the challenges facing the working man and see his contributions towards national development. The Vice President in his speech talking about the correlation between labor and progressive thought, compelling labor unions not to treat government as mortal enemies, but argue with them as part of one family trying to move the nation forward. He's also promising that the challenges facing Nigeria's working man will be addressed in the nearest future. From Eagle Square in Abuja, Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
All right, now that's where we're starting the conversation. And join us, we have Michael Adele, a human capital development expert, joining us right here in the studio. Great to have you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Quite an interesting, time, for workers. We have rising prices, so many headwinds at this point.
Yep.
Workers are faced with, so much, at this time, having to deal with squeezed income. So I'm wondering, what's the significance of this celebration this year, 2022?
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigerians. And well, I joined to say Happy Workers' Day.
Happy Workers' Day.
But in reality, I don't think we should be celebrating. Because if you look at the socio-economic aspect of all workers generally in this country, it's been messed up. What do I mean by messed up? It's a combination of good roads, education, good job, medical care for everyone, but it's not there. You have a lot of things that's going on at the moment, how employers treat their workers, how they payment their wages and all that. You have inflation rising by the day. And we spoke about minimum wage. That was actually implemented about a couple of years ago. Now, the same price we're buying petrol, diesel, food, clothing, transportation has risen over around about 63%. And still people on the 30 minimum wage are still on the same 30,000 minimum wage, okay? And even in some states, it's not even been implemented. So it's something that we should be well concerned about, rather than saying we're celebrating Workers' Days.
So we shouldn't be celebrating, at this point?
Until all those issues that surround the disadvantaged workers in this country, then
there's actually so much, plaguing, the working class, in Nigeria right now. We've seen, the tussle, with ASU there. That's one of the issues there with salaries and all of that. That's also a big one, and it's affecting, students at this point.
It is. I mean, you have thousands of students being graduated every year. What are they going to get into? The jobs are not there. Okay, we have factories and businesses being shut down on a regular basis. Now you have the ASU strike, you have the doctor strike, you have everywhere just been in disarray.
Many strikes.
Too many strikes. And what are the causes of this? Unemployment, underemployment, inflation rising by the day, minimum wage not being implemented. I think we shouldn't be talking about minimum wage as we are at the moment, because all what we understand in this country is minimum wage. We should be talking about national living wage.
Right. But, looking at a post, pandemic world, at this point, even though we still have the pandemic with us, what changes do you think need to be brought to, labor laws in this country?
Right. Okay. I'll give a typical example. We have a client who came to us, that was about a couple of months ago, who actually wanted to employ our services. Now, the email that they sent to us reads, we want XYZ someone to fill this position, but we don't pay for consultancy. So the question is, we asked them, so if you don't pay for consultancy, who pays that fee? Then it goes, the employee pays the fee. And I said, that is unethical. The best practice is you're hiring, you should be paying the consultancy fee for that labor you're hiring. So my question is this, the NLC are not really fundamentally or primarily doing what they're supposed to be doing. They're moving towards a different direction, going political now, as against being a pressure group to actually influence the government to tackle some of these issues. Now, you have workers who doesn't know what to do when they've been ill-treated at their workplace, unfair dismissal, okay? Giving them an extraordinary assignment that they're not supposed to do. The NLC should have or implement a law whereby there should be a whistleblower. If you're not being treated right by your employer, there should be a number to call for investigation, which they should be looking into setting up and making it functional employment tribunal courts and all that. Because all those are not in place, you have workers being mismanaged, unfair dismissal, low wage, and all that. Then that results into all these several antisocial behaviors.
We saw recently the one with the toxic working environment.
you can imagine that. Insecurity, because if they don't have nothing to do, they have to feed themselves. Their parents can't afford to feed them. So you find them going out to do all sort of crime, insecurity is increasing. When you look at that, it boils down to unemployment. Now, if you look at the percentage of unemployment in this country now, it's about 33%. That is a third of our population. That is alarming. We should be looking at now rather than talking about electioneering and politicking, because where we're going now is very uncertain.
Yeah, I'm talking about the unemployment rate at 33% is projected to even go higher.
Go higher.
In 2022. But what do you think, those that are willing and able to work, but, can't find job, what should they be doing at this point?
Now, the government needs to put in a different strategy. We have a lot of our graduates who are there who doesn't have the skills to fill in those positions. Usually, in other Clime, you have the government partnering with training companies. You train and retrain your workforce for them to be able to match the jobs that you have in the economy. Okay? We should look into our tertiary education, the quality of the education they're actually going through. You don't just, let me give you a simple example. If the UK has shortage of nurses, for example, they will design a program whereby they channel a lot of people to go through that, to go and do nursing as a course with different incentive to actually fill in the gap. We don't just allow, who regulates the courses that all these people are going to take in at various universities? Nobody regulates it. Everybody just do what they want to do. And we're not looking at, are these courses best fit for the economy? Look at our technical education. University is not for everyone. Okay? You have technical area where we could actually channel people to go and study skills. We used to have a lot of our students, our youth, going into technical education, studying plumbing, carpentry, painting, and all that kind of a thing. Now you can't even build a house in Nigeria without going out of the country to bring in skilled people, like people that make the POP, the plumbing, and all that kind of a thing, bricklaying.
Yeah, that's another issue of seeing, artisans being imported.
Being imported. This is, our technical education system should be addressing that. But what are the government doing about this? It's not been addressed. So we have our youth just coming out of university, studying any sort of a course they want to study. At the end of the day, they have nowhere to be, to deploy those skills.
And there's also another issue where we've seen some European countries actually recruiting, workers from here, in Nigeria, but they don't have to travel there. They actually stay in their rooms and actually work from home and are paid, by these companies out there.
Yeah, that is where I was talking about training. The ICT, telecommunication, those are booming area globally. Why can't the government invest in such avenue to train people? You're talking about people working from home. What about the brain drain?
Exactly. So we're having brain drain. People actually leaving the country.
Leaving the country.
And also
in
some that are here.
Some are here actually
still working,
providing services for foreign countries. So obviously we're just training our youth in education for other countries to benefit, because we don't have the right foundation to implement, to make sure we put into use those quality of education that they actually go through.
Right. And, I've seen a lot of conversations, on social media about Gen Z, the Gen Z workers, in the workspace at this point. And I've heard about them being a headache for HR managers. I saw a couple of tweets. One is out there, says, one of my former staff went for lunch break and never came back, called her for days, unreachable. A week later, she posted a video of her plunging in Dubai. Habibi fled because of a small shout. So I'm like, are the Gen Z workers really that bad?
It is really, again, that's what we call, well, when we're talking about brain drain, it doesn't mean everyone goes out of the country. Some are here, and somebody else is tapping their brain to use somewhere else. So when you start working with an employee, as an employer today, you'll be shocked that in the next, like what just happened on the Twitter, someone just gave him a call. Do you want to do this for me? And I'm going to pay you good.
So they have options.
They have options. The options are just open. So even employers now can't guarantee that so there is huge turnover of staff with many employers now. Because the point is, if you don't put the right things in place, I mean, we have to speak to employers as well. Most employers doesn't invest in their employee. Okay? When you ask them, what budget do you have for training your employee? They don't have a budget. They don't even have a plan for it. Now, the problem is they're getting scared that if they spend that amount of money to train their employees, then they're going to lose them somewhere else. But the point is, if the government have an enforcement that every employer that has over 3 staff train and retrain your staff, it will go around. If I train and you leave, someone else is coming in who has been trained by somebody else.
So that risk of, training and the staff actually leaving you.
Because if I join an organization now and you're not adding value to what I bring in, then obviously someone else is called me that wants to pay me more. I'm going to leave. But if you train me, you invest in me, not just for me to deploy my quality of work and your productivity or the service I provide for you as my employer, but again, I know I'm developing as well. That is not happening. So the government have a work to do. The training, every employer needs to train and retrain their staff.
What about the employees themselves? What can they do, to make themselves actually
again,
do better?
Some do better if they can afford it. The wage that you pay them, can they afford to go and pay some huge amount of money to get them personal training? But normally, government should have, like I said earlier, partnering with a number of training companies. The government have ITF, which I don't think is more effective because I've been there quite a few times to see how they operate. You should have partnering with various number of training companies, human capital development. And obviously, you subsidize those courses. So somebody can just say, okay, I'm going to do this course by myself. It's been subsidized. I can pay this. But that's not in place as well. So if I'm underpaid, I'm still struggling to make ends meet with that little amount of money I'm being paid. How much I'm able to get out of that money to go train myself and spend some money to develop myself? It's absolutely not impossible. It's impossible.
Right. And, looking at wages, it's been said that, inflation impacts everybody, but it also impacts the workers more. And, we've talked about wage hikes, but at the same time, the employers have an issue too because they're facing high inflation for their inputs, at this point. So it's hard for them to actually raise wages because they're also, feeling the headwinds. What do you think is the consensus here?
Right. I think we should be talking about incentives. Now, if I'm an employer and the government comes to me and say, okay, if you employ XYZ number of job seekers, graduates, I'm going to have to train them, make them more useful, not just for me, but to the economy. And the government says in return, it's a win-win situation. From the taxes, your corporation tax that you pay to me, we will give you maybe 5% back or 10% back. So if I can afford to employ or to increase the wage of the current people that I have, or to employ more staff, if I look into that and I find that there's an incentive for me from the government, I'm going to be able to do that because I know it's going to offset some of my taxes to the government. So, but if there's no help for an employer, it's going to be very hard for them to increase wages or to employ more staff. So the government have to look into that areas of incentive given to employers so they can work in partnership with the government.
So I guess everyone has a part to play.
Everyone has a part to play
in all of this. Well, it's quite interesting times, and we hope that the year kind of gets better. But the outlook, obviously, economists have
it's actually difficult out there.
It's quite a difficult outlook, for global economies with all that's going on with the war in Ukraine, rising prices, and all of that, and workers still have to show up.
They have to show
regardless.
Regardless.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Michael Adele, human capital development expert. It was great having you on Business Morning today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now, so I will take the conversation further, after the break, we're looking at the report from Sweden showing that MSMEs dropped by 2 million in 4 years. We'll be drilling down on that in a moment. Do stay with us. This is Business Morning. Welcome back to watching Business Morning. To our next conversation now. MSMEs are the backbone of any economy, and in terms of sustainable growth, employment generation, increasing trade, development of entrepreneurial skills, and contribution to export earnings. A report by the Small and Medium Enterprises Development Agency of Nigeria shows the number of micro, small, and medium enterprises across the country dropped by about 2 million between 2017 and 2021. Well, that's our conversation today. Joining us, we'll have Mr. Monday Alu Aarons, Director, Enterprises Development and Promotion Department of Sweden, right there. Join us from Abuja via Zoom. Great to have you on the program. Good morning. And we also have Chukwuemeka Kelvin Idam, CEO Zen Ideas and Sustainability Advocate, join us right here in the studio. Great to have you, Chukwuemeka.
Thanks, Ladi. Thanks for having me.
So I'll start with you, Mr. Monday Evans, right there. Well, 2 million MSMEs, that's quite a big drop, in 4 years. What do you think drove this, and should we be worried at this point?
Thank you so much, Ladi. I'm happy to be in this program this morning. MSMEs are very key to development efforts in this country. They contribute to job creation, wealth creation, and poverty alleviation. Of course, SMEDAN as an agency has been partnering with the National Bureau of Statistics to reel out these statistics for MSMEs in this country. In 2010, it was about 17 million. In 2013, it was about 34 million. In 2017, it was about 41.6 million. And then recently, as at 31st December 2020, it came down to 39.6 million, which is about 4.5% drop in the figure of 2017. Of course, the issues concerning the drop is very, very clear, because within this period between 2017 and 2020, there was this major outbreak, the COVID-19 issue. It affected businesses across the world, especially in Nigeria, because most of the businesses are dealing with contact persons, physical markets, and so on and so forth. So when the COVID-19 came on board, there were lockdown, there were insecurity, there were banditry, terrorism, and the rest and the rest. So this affected some of these businesses. Some of them closed their shops. Some of them lost turnover, they lost markets, and so on and so forth. So mainly issue related to COVID-19, terrorism, insecurity really affected the lives of these small businesses, and most of them had to close down because of this issue. So that was why there was that drop of about 2 million, from 41.6 million to 39.6 million, which is about a 4.5% drop. Thank you so much.
Quite a drop there. But let me come to you now, Chukwuemeka. You're a business owner, and you play in most sectors there. But what for you are the priority areas, of support that you think should be looked into for MSMEs at this point?
Okay, thank you, Ladi. The key areas I would say off the top of my head are like power. Power is very important and it's very key. You need power for everything. You need power to produce, you need power to manufacture, even to generally sustain business operations. As you're aware, post-pandemic, most businesses have moved virtually, so you even need power to sustain that as well. Another key resource would be access to finance. This is very key because currently the traditional finance instruments available offer double-digit interest rates. This is very prohibitive, very expensive for MSMEs to afford. I myself, as a business owner, I find it difficult to access such finances. And right now we're expanding and we're doing a round, and I've seen that we've had a lot of issues around finance. So trust me, a lot of businesses will struggle around this and end up having to either offer subpar services or having to close shop. So these are the two key resources I would highlight as issues.
Of support. All right, I'll come to you now, Mr. Evans. So at the end of the day, funding is a big issue for MSMEs. What kind of conversations are you having, regarding, making funding easier and accessible?
Of course, thank you so much. I would agree that access to finance, affordable finance, is key to business operations of small businesses. But from our own perspective, funding is not the only issue. Because if you have funding finance, if you don't have the skills to manage that funding, the finance will fritter away. And then even if you have funding and you have skills to manage it, and if you don't have a guaranteed offtake arrangement that has access to markets, you've also wasted your time. You won't achieve what you want to achieve. But it is essential that if you must have that finance, you should have the skills, you should have the markets, and of course, the enabling environment is also key, which includes what my brother talked about, infrastructure, and so on and so forth. So for finance, yes, it is key. But most importantly, when an average MSME is talking about finance, we also talk about character, because there are sources of finance from the banks, from the development banks, from even government intervention, and so on and so forth. But we're talking about character. Do the average small business person have the character to manage the funding the way it's supposed to be managed? Do they have the character to pay back this money when it comes to them? Do they have the money do they have the character to put the money into the business and grow it as per their business plan, as per their business model, to achieve what they need to achieve? Yes, money is key, but we need to make sure that the money the small business person gets is applied into the business, else the objectives will not be achieved. And of course, the government has been trying its best to support small businesses with finance. Of course, overall, when we talk about there's a finance gap for small businesses. But whatever happens, access to finance is key, and government is trying to do what they can at this moment to provide this finance. And then for the COVID issue, the government tried to support small businesses through the COVID issue by instituting what they call the National Economic Sustainability Plan, which includes reassessing the loans taken by small businesses already, reducing the interest rate paid by small businesses in there for the finance they already have, supporting small businesses with payment of salaries, and of course, instituting a guaranteed offtake system for their products. Of course, these things may not be enough, but if you look at the results of the government intervention, and even from Smedan's perspective, we saw that within these four years, between 2017 and 2020, there was also an increase in employment, which means those support that the government is doing also supported the existing businesses to increase the number of people that are employed. For instance, it grew from about 59 million to about 62 million, which shows that there was some impact on the intervention of government. So access to finance should be managed the way it's supposed to be managed, and then complemented with issues to capacity building and the markets and so on and so forth. Thank you.
All right, so I guess the MSMEs have a responsibility to be responsible with, funding that they actually get. But let me come to you now, Mr. Adam. Right now we're seeing rising prices, rising energy prices, inputs costs are going up, overhead costs are going up at this point. And, I'm wondering, how are you able to pass on some of this increases to your customers?
Thanks, Laddie. So yes, we're very careful with that. We don't just change our prices automatically to meet the rising cost like you just described. But we're finding sustainable ways to grow our business, and so we're trying to be as innovative around solutions as possible. One of such ways is we've kind of like to adapt to like the post-pandemic era of virtual reality. So we don't all just have to operate like a physical showroom space. We've adapted to now deliver most of our solutions virtually as well. So like I said, we'll find ways around it. And then at some point when like the cost of power, we can't do anything about it, then maybe we'll pass some of that buck to the consumer.
Right, but what alternatives, are you finding at this point? Because obviously everything is up, but are there alternatives readily available to help support your business?
Alternatives like in terms of power generation?
Exactly.
So we alternate the use of generators like diesel, petrol, that kind of solution. Or sometimes, like I said, we go away from using physical spaces to virtual reality, to virtual spaces. That cuts a lot of cost in terms of like rent, in terms of like the funding that it takes to set up the showroom space and keep like actual products. Because I run a furniture manufacturing company. Yes.
Quite interesting,
Yeah.
because that also requires a lot of energy
Yeah.
use, for
Yes, it does.
production of furniture. But Mr. Evans, I'll come to you now. I know Sweden is doing a lot, to support most of these MSMEs. But as an organization, what do you need right now to enhance, performance, in supporting MSMEs in Nigeria?
Yeah, thank you so much. Of course, SMEDAN is the apex government agency for supporting small businesses in Nigeria. And of course, it's just the apex agency in more than 200 million people. You can imagine the enormity of the responsibility and the assignment. Of course, as an agency of government, we have our own challenges. For instance, for us to go through the 36 states and FCT, we need a lot of support, a lot of money. And of course, as of now, the agency depends on the national budget for survival and doing what we need to do. So first of all, we need to have adequate budgetary provision to be able to go through the 36 states and FCT to be able to impact people the way that they're supposed to be impacted. Oh, we're talking about skills. How do we train people? There's a cost for training across the 36 states and FCT. We need a lot of money. Of course, we don't do it alone because we place so much premium on partnerships and collaboration. So we do it with other public institutions and credible private sector institutions. So we need to support, we need to fund the training, for instance. We need to fund business development service. We need to fund empowerment schemes like supporting small business with equipment, supporting small business with finance, supporting small businesses with a framework for access to market. So one of the key issues here is increasing our financial muscle to be able to attend to what we need to attend. Of course, apart from that, we also need skills both in-house and outside. So we also need to have a capacity to be training our staff, giving them the skill to be able to deliver services, quality services to small businesses. So a major, the other issues involved, but mainly we need to, the government needs to support us to the extent that we're able to enter and do what we're supposed to do within the 36 states and FCT, because it requires a lot of funding, it requires a lot of expertise and technical ability to achieve what we need to achieve. Thank you.
All right, but Mr. Edwards, what can we expect from SMEDAN going forward in 2022?
Okay, as usual, on a yearly basis, we do support small businesses with a lot of our programs, a lot of projects, and so on and so forth, because that's the only way we can deliver our mandate, deliver our services to small businesses. For instance, one of the programs we run is called One Local Government, One Product Program, which is targeted at making sure that organic clusters in each of the 774 local governments are organized specially, making sure that they have access to equipment, will have access to workspace, have access to finance, have access to all the resources that made them grow. Of course, we've been doing that. As of now, we have done over 500 local governments. So within this year, we're going to complete the 774 local governments to make sure that at that level, local government level, there are organic clusters that support the growth of small businesses, support our effort at job creation, and so on and so forth. There's also one we call the conditional grant scheme for micro enterprises. This is targeted at making sure that we support small businesses with formalization. We support them with capacity building. We support them with grants, 50,000 naira each for each of the enterprises. We support them with micro insurance and also support with BDS. Of course, we have done that in over 20 states this day, right now, and we're going forward. And of course, the most important thing is that we also do what we call the National Business Skill Development Initiative, which is also an initiative that supports small businesses with entrepreneurship training, with vocational training, and empowerment with equipment. We did that last year in the 36 states and FCT, and we target such skills like leather works, like gym repairs, like fashion, like photography, and so on and so forth. Once these MSMEs are trained, both entrepreneurship and vocational training. They are giving equipment to support these skill areas and make sure that they're able to do what they're supposed to do, to increase their turnover, increase their capacity, able to create those jobs that are supposed to be created. And of course, we have other programs that will run on a yearly basis to support small businesses. So, but time may not permit to go through them right now.
Okay, Mr. Evans, thank you so much for that. But I'll come to you now, Mr. Idam. Well, you know, quite a number of programs there, you know, to support MSMEs that Mr. Evans reeled out there. But before you, what kind of support would you really want to see, you know, from the government, coupled with what he just said?
Okay, first of all, I just want to say that, you know, it was interesting listening to that. There's a lot of information that is not really out there. And so I think kudos to Smith and everything they're doing, you know, but I think there's a lot of work still needs to be done in terms of information, you know. If you give an entrepreneur everything he needs, you know, there will be more productivity in the environment, you know, you have more jobs and more wealth creation. So I think, yes, asking for character and asking for all those other things are very key, but funding is also very key as well. To answer your question, what I want the government to do, I want the government, you know, the government has done quite a lot, even in terms of the recently signed Finance Act. So that gives some tax exemption, you know, small or medium companies with a turnover below 25 million and, you know, all of that. So the government has done something, but there's still so much more to do in terms of security, you know, basic security, power infrastructure, just basic infrastructure, really, just to make an enabling environment for entrepreneurs and SMEs to be able to thrive and, you know, look forward to doing business here in this country.
Quite interesting. And, you know, obviously we've the business owners have had, you know, a lot of headwinds from the pandemic. You know, now we have, you know, now with this war in Ukraine. But what did you learn from the pandemic?
I think for us at Zen Ideas, the pandemic taught us adaptability, right? Because we had to evolve to meet our customers' evolving needs, right? So, like I just highlighted initially, we were just about to sign a long lease on a physical showroom, and if we had done that, that would have been a disaster, like, you know, because we'd have spent so much money on that and everybody was in a lockdown. But we had to grow, to evolve, to meet their needs virtually, and in doing that, we were able to increase our numbers and we were able to increase our customers as well.
Right, quite interesting, and quite interesting times, you know, in the world for employers, for employees, and the government as well, and we all have to work together to make this work.
Absolutely.
Know, at some point. I want to thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Chukwemeka Idam, CEO Zen Ideas Sustainability Advocates, and also thank you, Mr. Monday Evans, for coming on the show, Director Enterprise and Development Promotion at Smith. It was great having you both on the program today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ladi. Thank you for having us.
All right, now, so we'll take a moment. When we come back, we'll drill down on the markets. Do stay with us. This is Business Morning. Welcome now to drill down on the markets. We have Anita standing by right there. Well, Anita, April, amazing month for the equities market. Quite incredible.
Yeah, yes, Ladi. First, let me say happy holidays in as much as we're at work. April has turned out to be, I think, in my own description, the best so far within the first 4 months of 2022. And this comes amid strong bargain hunting by investors. At some point in the month of March, the stocks had fallen to very low levels. But, you know, with earnings results and so many other sentiments, investors just decided to go into the market, and of course the market has been, you know, on the upsurge within the month of April. So far, what we have for the month is 5.7%, and then for the year, 16.2%. So, but let's take a look at how the market closed last week. 2.43% is what it gained in the 4 trading days of the final four trading days of April. Of course, the market, it enjoyed very strong rally from investors amid sustained buy interest, particularly from local investors. The value of the equities also climbed higher into the 26.7 1 trillion naira level. Of course, for the all-share index, we've crossed the 49,000 mark. We've seen that level right here. The last time we saw it was sometime around 2008. So which shows you that this market is really making some strong comebacks, and this is coming in the midst of flurry of Q1 earnings, particularly from some of the markets bellwethers, the likes of MTN Nigeria, Total Nigeria, the likes of Unilever, Access Bank, so many other banks. You know, their results were released just last week. So, of course, the market. In terms of sectoral performance, right here, for last week, 4 out of the 5 key counters of the market were in the green. The banking sector, of course, we saw the shares of GTCO. It was down, as well as some other tier 1 lenders, so it was down. In terms of volume for the week was up by 62.8%. Value was up 32.4% week on week. And then, of course, the green is also for the deals. Then, of course, in terms of the top trades, we saw Honeywell Flour, FCMB, and Transcorp being the major contributor to that volume. Honeywell, as of Friday, it was the top traded equity, and that comes amid reports that the 4 regulators, the 3 regulators, the FCCPC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, and the Nigerian Exchange Group had approved the merger between, or the acquisition of Honeywell by Flour Mills. So that's, of course, was the reason why that market was up. So now to drill more on the market, let's talk to a stockbroker at CSL Stockbrokers. His name is Richard Akimoladu. Thank you for joining us, Richard. Hello, Richard. Okay, so like I was saying, that the markets, of course, we've been seeing lots of activity. The month of April, so far, we have, I think, about 3 weeks of strong performance by the market, and we're expecting that the bull is going to dominate the market in the new month. We just started the month of May, but markets are on holiday for the May Day holiday today, as well as the Eid holiday, the Eid Muslim holiday for tomorrow. So the market will open on Wednesday, and I think a stockbroker I spoke with said he expects that the market would be in the green, but we'll keep our fingers crossed on that. And then, of course, when we talk to our stockbroker, Richard, as I mentioned, I think he'll be able to give us more insight into what he expects the market to turn out at in the course of the week.
Right, Anita, well, it'll be interesting to see how, May, plays out for, the local bourse, because we've seen April wasn't good for global equities markets. We saw, a lot of sell-offs with NASDAQ and all the other indexes. But the NGX did well, in April. Be interesting to see how May plays out for the local market going forward. But thank you so much, Anita. We'll have our fingers crossed to see how all of that plays out. All right, so that was the market. We're going to drill down on more markets now. Let's see how Bitcoin is doing. We see the market cap up this morning, up by 2.27% at $1.76 trillion. Volume traded, $79.42 billion traded in Bitcoin and the altcoins this morning. Bitcoin dominance sits at 42.25%. And look at the price of Bitcoin, $39,015 this morning. We see Bitcoin price again bearish momentum after it broke the 39,000 support zone, and Bitcoin even traded below the 38,000 level and settled below the 100 hourly simple moving average. It was a spike below the 37.5 support zone, a low that was formed at $37,399, and the price is now correcting higher. It was a move above the 38,000 and 38,200 resistance level, and we saw it got to about 39,000 earlier this morning. Looking at the price of Ethereum there, we see $2,863. That's up about 2.89%. Volume traded in Ethereum, $15.04 billion. We see Ethereum also followed the bearish path below the $2,850 pivot level. Ethereum even traded below 2,800 support, same as Bitcoin did, below the 100 hourly simple moving average. It traded as low as $2,718 before the bulls appeared. And we saw as it started an upside correction and climb above the 2,750 level. Price was able to surpass the 2,800 resistance this morning. Let's look at the top alts by market cap. We see BNB there, $391. It's all green there. We're seeing that relief rally this morning. The weekend was quite rough for the crypto market. BNB there trading up 3.66%. Cardano 0.7, that's about 79 cents, up 2.69%. All right, let's bring in Olumide Adesina now. Hello, Olumide, good morning.
Hello, Raji, good morning.
Yeah, Olumide, happy new month, happy Workers' Day. Quite an interesting, April was quite interesting for the altcoins, Bitcoin, and global equities market. It was quite a bearish run, but now we're in May and we're seeing a little relief rally, for Bitcoin, but it seems to be bouncing back again. But I don't know, is this sustainable?
Yeah, very good question, Ladi. Understanding fully well that the crypto market had a month that a lot of investors will want to forget about. I'm talking of the late sellers we saw in mid to late April, as growing concerns that the US Fed would definitely tighten the economy was on the table. And that's why we see the dollar rallying at 20-year high. But the question is, despite the rally we're seeing today, the market fully understands that May 4 meeting would definitely give the crypto markets, investors, bulls a lot of concern. Because right now, despite the fact we saw Bitcoin taking back the 38,000 support level, Ethereum hovering above 2,800 per coin, it seems still like more downside pressures are expected. Like I rightly said, liquidity is getting tight. The US Fed is committed to reduce billions of dollars every month on their balance sheet. So it's very hard to say if the bulls will really rally. But you see, the truth of the beauty of the crypto market is that despite those concerns, we've seen Bitcoin being aggressive. Today, you see other classes, especially commodities, and those things going against the dollar falling. But Bitcoin seems to be fired up. But Ladi, it's very difficult to bet against the US Fed when we're in the financial market.
Quite interesting, and a strong US dollar at this point, hoping that pulls back at some point. But another altcoin, ApeCoin, that one has had an incredible run from about $6 in March to a high of about $26. But it has pulled back from $26. But ApeCoin futures saw a $36 million liquidation, after a volatile trading. How are traders seeing that?
Surprisingly, just like you rightly said, for those that don't know what ApeCoin really stands for, so it's really one of the tokens that come behind the popular NFT Bored Apes that have the pictures of monkeys. And ever since it came to tokenization, and I'm talking of the coin level, we've seen increasing demand, especially among people that don't have exposure to the Bored Apes NFTs. But just like you rightly mentioned, the asset lost more than 30% in a couple of days after rallying more than 2,800% since March. Really will make investors to feel like this is just profit taking. But the interesting thing about ApeCoin is that it has a very exciting ecosystem. The most owners are definitely among the higher middle class. When you understand the floor price of a Bored Ape NFT going for around $280,000, you understand why the excitement is around the ApeCoin ecosystem. But having said those things, I think it's fair to understand that, yes, we're going to see sustainable profit taking, especially when the BS take control. Yeah,
profit taking will always come into play. See them owning pictures of bored monkeys. Quite interesting times in the crypto space. Olumide, thank you so much. Olumide, it was great having you. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, see me, lad. Thank you.
All right, so that's it for the markets. It's quite green this morning, hoping that can continue throughout the week, and maybe May might be that good month for the crypto market and other global equities market. But at the end of the day, sometimes that saying, sell in May and go away, comes into play. All right, we'll see how it plays out. Thank you so much for watching. That is a wrap on the program today. Don't forget to join us about 1:30 on Business Incorporated for more updates and developments in the world of business. Thank you for watching. I'm Ladi Williams. Enjoy the rest of your day.